Hey everyone, it's Jonathan from Awareness Ascending. Just wanted to let you know we have a private members network at awarenessascending.com. If you sign up and become a member with us, you get live stream access. So what that allows you to do is to ask questions directly to the hosts, get readings, get healings, get live channel direct messages for your questions, information that you want, and just be part of our conversation as it develops. So head on over. We have a 7-day free trial at awarenessascending.com and enjoy the show.
So welcome to Magical Aging. I'm your host, Olivia Parr-Rud, and each month we're going to be meeting here on awarenessascending.com, where we're going to talk to people who are doing all kinds of magical aging. And I'm so excited to have as my guest tonight a dear friend and an amazing woman, Catherine Hollis Peters. So welcome, Catherine.
Thank you, Olivia. It is such a pleasure to be here. Very excited.
Great. So let me tell you all a little bit about Catherine. She calls herself, and she is an age optimization specialist. And she is founder and CEO of Seeking Indigo, which is a movement dedicated to helping people and women of all ages live extraordinary lives. It helps you break through barriers that stand in your way using modern technology and ancient methodologies to help you look and feel amazing. And Seeking Indigo offers retreats, workshops, private coaching, and Catherine's transformational 5-step manifesting process, which will help you transform your life into a life you love. And so she's going to talk about that a bit tonight. But just to give you an idea of how powerful Catherine is as a manifester, let me give you a little bit of her history, because she was raised in Atlanta, Georgia, but found her way to LA and by seeking out a master's degree in spiritual psychology. And while she was developing her skills in transformation, she started manifesting an acting career at the ripe age of almost 60. So that gives you an idea of how magically she has aged. She divides her time between working steadily in film, TV, and commercials. She just shared before we got on that she's doing a dog food commercial in the next couple days. And she's worked with top directors like Damien Chazelle, director of La La Land, and she help others to just stand in their greatness, because she just does that everywhere she goes. She was recently featured in the anticipated blockbuster Babylon with Brad Pitt and Margot Robbie, and House Party, Ambrosia, and Super Pumped. And Catherine also hosts a weekly program called 108 Pearls of Wisdom with her mentor, Manu Mariel. And we'll be sharing links as we go through this, so you'll be able to reach out and connect with her. When she's not on the set, Catherine teaches Pilates. She loves spending time with her golden doodle, Bella, and she loves traveling the globe with her wellness retreat platform while helping saffron communities develop their products, experiences, and retreats. So we'll get into a little bit more of that. We want to welcome everyone. So Catherine, I love that you have this transformational formula. It's just an amazing process to help people achieve their goals. So can you tell our viewers a little bit about your process?
Sure. Now, you don't need to write any of this down, because at the end of this, I'll be giving you a gift, which is access to this 5-step formula. So feel free just to relax and enjoy. And at the end, you'll receive a copy of this. But I'll give you a little sneak peek into what it's all about and how it came about. So as Olivia mentioned, I am from Atlanta, Georgia, and came through LA on my way to my greatness, which is helping others be in their greatness. And along the way, we all have many versions of ourselves. And I feel like I'm reinventing myself. But the thing that has always stayed true to my heart, and something that I felt, well, does everyone have this ability, is the manifesting. And manifesting really is your birthright. Like, we all can manifest. But I didn't realize how I was actually doing it. And when I stopped for a moment and said, well, why is it that I can create rainbows and, things start to happen magically? And the reason is it really breaks down into there is a secret behind the secret that they didn't tell you. And so this 5-step process is going to give you the key to manifesting. But I do want to tell you a little bit about the process because I think it's really important. It's going to seem a little rudimentary when you first start. It's very simple. And it's what kind of bogs us down is we get stuck in the process. So I encourage you, don't get stuck in the process. Just take it with ease and grace and enjoy it and have fun with it. But when you first get started, it will seem a little bit like ABCs. So the first step in this process to manifesting is really simple. Identify. That's the first process. The thing is, we often go through life and we don't really stop to figure out who we are. We don't really know where we are in a situation that's got us stumped. And we sometimes don't even know what the situation is. So the very first step is to really take that time to identify those things. Figure out where you are. I call it sitting in the chair of truth. And that really is to get real with yourself, to find out who you are, where you are, and what is going on. So there's a lot more involved. If you go ahead and sign up and get the link, then you will be able to get this access that will take you through a video as well that will break all of this down. I am very, I'm going to say, ecstatic about something called Gene Keys and Human Design. And that is going to help you so much in understanding who you are. So I encourage you to go on, if for nothing more than to get access to that, because in the process, we do give you access to find out what your human design is. And human design is really just a map. It's a manual that you get to use while you're working on your way, on your journey, but keeping in mind that we're each unique and we want to make sure that what we're doing is in sync with who we are. So if you've ever felt like you're pushing up against a wall or it doesn't feel right, it's probably because it's not in sync with you. It's kind of like biorhythms. So again, you will get more access to this step, identify through this link. The second step in the process is evaluate. All right, so we figure out who we are. We know what the problem is. We know what the opportunity is, but we really don't take a look at the difference between where we are and where we want to go is where the opportunity lies. And that's where most of the work is. So it's not like we can just manifest by sitting back and dreaming something up. We actually get to do a little bit of work, which should feel like play. So if you're in the stream and things are flowing, then you know, hey, this is probably mine to do. So again, looking at where you are and where you want to go, that's the opportunity. That's also can create challenges, but that is really, that evaluation stage is key. The third stage, which I find to be the most challenging personally, is eliminate. And we've all been there before. So we're in a relationship that really doesn't serve us. We want to lose weight, but we're eating the foods that really are not good for us. So we have to go through a very systematic approach to eliminate anything. And I do mean anything that doesn't serve you, including sometimes a negative mindset. So the elimination phase, again, is a process. These things don't happen overnight, but you want to follow it in a step-by-step basis because it'll make the flow much more easy. And then the integrate phase is where everything starts coming together. It's almost like you're drawing that attraction to you. So you're in the flow, you've identified what you want, you know what is not serving you, and then things start to begin falling in place. Now, why do they fall in place? There is a secret word, and I'll go ahead and give it to you, which is called resolve. Now, resolve means not that you're wanting it or you're thinking it or you're hoping it. It means that it has already happened. And I used to use the example, Olivia, that it's like the check is in the mail, but now we don't really pay our bills that way anymore. So, but it's like that. You don't put the check in the mail and then wonder if somebody broke into the post office box or are they ever going to get it? You just know that it's going to get there. And that's kind of what being in resolve is all about. You're in the process of having that creation come into reality, but you're not worrying about it. You're not second guessing it. You're not questioning it. You're living as if that has already come into fruition. So the last step, which is my favorite step, is celebrate. And let's face it, we can't stay in this wishing or hoping stage for a long period of time without celebrating our small wins. So while you're holding space for that thing to come in, whatever it is that you're creating, you want to make sure that you're also taking the baby steps and celebrating each of those wins along the way. So again, there's a lot more to it, but that's the basis behind it. And if you go on to the link that we're going to put at the end, you'll be able to take a moment to sign up, and you'll get the free, I actually call it an action planner because it puts you in action. So I'm not a believer that we manifest by sitting back and just wishing it to be. We know it's already happening, and then we start taking some action steps to bring that in. So that's a little bit about what is, and it works for everything. I am an age optimization specialist, and I work with my clients through movement, nutrition, frequency, and mindset. And I use this formula. We all get stuck along the way, and it works. So I encourage you all to jump in and give that a shot, and it can help with anything you're trying to bring in.
That's great. And so go to freefromcat.com and you'll sign up. It'll be through my website, but you'll get her ebook, and I'll make sure she gets your information so you can get to stay in touch with Catherine. And I wanted to ask you, so we mentioned Seeking Indigo in the introduction, and your manifestation of that, what you created under that name originally is one of the most amazing manifestation stories. So I'd love you to share that with the viewers, because I just get goosebumps. It's so powerful. So can you tell us the story of Seeking Indigo as a brick and mortar, and then what it's becoming?
Yes. And I love that it is really magic in so many regards, because this is going to give anybody hope if you feel like you have no idea how to get to what you want. So I was a fashion designer living in New York City, doing what fashion designers do, working ridiculous amounts of hours, traveling. I was on a plane, I think 250 days a year. And I was not satisfied with the fact that I was just producing more and more. I was a clothing designer. I'm like, is there not enough clothing? So I started to think about what I really wanted to do. And I realized that wellness, anti-aging, these were my passions. I love clothing and I love making women beautiful. But what really helps us become beautiful is on the inside. It's not the outside. That's just to complement it. So I was on a trip, and I decided to take a film crew with me to India, which is where I produced a lot of the clothing. And it was a different line than what you might think. The line was called Putumayo. It was based in New York City. We had 7 stores. It was a wholesale line. We had like 1,500 accounts. And I would go into these extraordinary cultures. That's where I would receive my inspiration from. So I would sit on the floor with women that were making tapestries, and I would use that inspiration for my clothing. So I took a film crew in, and we were all there headed towards one of the villages that was right on the border of Pakistan. But I kept really knowing, and that's that point of resolve, that what was mine to do was not clothing. It was transformation. And I really didn't even understand the whole idea of what transformation is all about. But I knew that that was part of what I was here to do. So as we're driving into the desert, we were minutes from Pakistan. I said, stop the cab, stop the car. We're on this dirt road. And all of a sudden, literally, this download came in. And if you've ever been in a place where you're thinking, you're trying to figure it out, it doesn't usually come. Right? But if you can move out of that beta brainwave and into that, alpha, that theta brain state where you're in a relaxed state, that's why sometimes when we're driving, amazing ideas come to us. Or maybe we're in the shower. You've probably had that where you wish you had your pen and paper. Well, I was in the backseat of the cab, just letting my brain, relax. And all of a sudden this came in. I had the name, I had the how to, I had the where to do it. I had it all. And it came in like a package. And so I, under normal circumstances, would have pushed that away. but I was open to it. So I allowed this idea to come in, and I started literally like unpacking the idea in the backseat of the taxi. And they had me on film, and I said, guys, stop the car. We are not doing what you think. We are seeking indigo. Don't know where it came from. It came from the ethers. I didn't even understand what that meant, but I allowed it to come in, and then I was given every single step of how to articulate this vision. And in 90 days, we opened a 6,000 square foot wellness facility in Charleston, South Carolina, with so many moving parts. And we were given the key to the city from the mayor for transforming Charleston, South Carolina, Upper King Street. So again, I didn't have the knowledge of wellness. I mean, I knew a little here and there, but I didn't understand how to do what I was being called to do. And this changed my whole life. So yes, I opened this center. Seeking Indigo became not a retail store, not a wellness center. Yes, it was both of those. It became a movement. And so behind this wellness center was an intention to allow transformation to unfold and to allow a person the opportunity to recognize what they don't know, right? We know a lot about what we know, but so many of us don't even know what we don't know. There's a whole world out there. And that was the intention. So when we opened our doors, there were 1,200 people at our grand opening, Charleston, South Carolina, around the block. And I knew then this is what I was here to do. And so that was the catalyst for my journey into transformation. And I just began to study everything that I could, and I just let the magic unfold. So again, Seeking Indigo has taken many forms. It will be a book. It is right now an urban oasis in the heart of LA, which does custom one-on-one retreats. It has been a retail store, a wellness center, but behind it all, it's this intention for us to allow what we don't know to unfold and to be curious and to stay in that space of when you're seeking indigo, it's all here. It's all inside. You don't really have to go outside of yourself. And this 5-step process that I talked about helps take you there. So hopefully that's it. It's a little bit more long-winded, but that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Beautiful. I want to invite any of our guests too, that if you have questions, please put them in the chat. My daughter Vanessa is on and she will interrupt, or I can ask her if anybody's asked questions. So we'd love to hear from you if you're listening in. So thank you, Catherine. I know you had one really cool example when you were creating your 6,000 foot, I don't even want to call it a store. It was so much more healing center. I think you said there was something about fabric on the ceiling where a woman, yeah. So tell that, because to me, it's where we are when we're tuned in to our higher, perhaps what's coming through to us. We don't even always have to be conscious of it. We're like attracting it. That's why it's so important to do the healing work along the way. So we're not attracting what we don't want, right? So we're clear. We're sort of an open vessel for spirit, for this awareness ascending. So yeah, share that story. I love that.
Oh, I would love to. I know exactly which one you're talking about. And there are so many stories. So first, I will say that when you're in the flow and you're doing what's yours to do, which we do want to ask ourselves that. There's lots of things we might think are fun or we might like to do, but there are certain things that are yours to do. And when things start to really flow and they start to come in like clockwork, you know you're on the right path. And that's what started happening with Seeking Indigo. I didn't even know a single healer. I was to hire 12 of the best. They all came in the door. I didn't have any idea really how I was going to get this 12-foot waterfall that was going to be in the front of the store. Believe me, when we opened, it was there. Every single thing that I wanted. But the one that I held true to was I had this vision, and this is the one I think you're thinking of a tinted ceiling. So we were in this almost like warehouse, 6,000 square feet. It was very rough, and I wanted to make it feel and actually become a temple. I wanted it to be like what I had experienced in Bali and India. And so when I was in India and I was on the Ganges River, there was a person that had created this incredible tent. And when we were underneath it, it was like magic happened. And I was like, I want to recreate that for everyone that wants to come into Seeking Indigo. So when you're having a massage, you're looking at not a ceiling and looking at air conditioning vents, but you're looking at a hand block that was traditional from India that was on the ceiling in this billowing fabric. So that's what my vision was. Okay, how the heck was I going to do that? So again, remember, this is a very large space. So I'm in what I called my think tank. And I had this one space that I was working, bringing everything together because we only had 90 days to open it from concept to finished product. And along the walls was every step that I knew I needed to do. So again, I used my formula. At the time, I didn't know the formula, but I went in and I was like, okay, let me put all these steps down that I need to articulate. And one of them was tinting the ceiling. So we're 3 weeks away from opening and there was no tinted ceiling. And I was convinced that we were going to bring the ceiling in, and everyone else was like, we've got to delay the opening or you need to change because we're not going to have a tinted ceiling. And so I just held true to it. And I kid you not, I'm in the back and one of the interns who had just started, she came running back. She's knocking on my door and she said, Catherine, there's a woman knocking on the window and she says she has to see you. And I'm thinking it's all taped up outside because we're getting ready to open. That woman was featured that morning, or it had just run that morning on Martha Stewart. And she was called the boutique tent lady. Now, why did she come to Seeking Indigo? What was the energy that pulled her in? She had no idea what I was wanting. She came because she heard we were opening and she thought, oh, you might want to put a little tent outside when you're having your grand opening so that people could come and sign up. It would just be like a nice way. No. I had a completely different idea. So I brought her in and I said, is this possible? I have this hand block that I brought back from India. I want it stamped in gold on this billowing white fabric, and I want it on the entire 6,000 square feet. And she looked at me and thought I'd lost my mind. And I said, look, if anybody can do it, you can do it. And sure enough, we opened. She was still hanging the tent the night before we opened. I walked back there and my heart stopped. It was exactly what I had envisioned. So again, there's a lot of times where that no will come up and people will say, no, you can't. And I always say a no is a not yet. When it's meant to be, it's a not yet. And that's what happened. So I think that's the story you were talking about with the beautiful tinted space that people still to this day remember. And I've never seen it articulated the same. So that's a little tidbit behind the power of manifestation and how I benefited with Seeking Indigo.
That's amazing. I love that story. And I think I even heard more little intricacies of it. So thank you for sharing that. Do you mind telling our viewers how old you are?
Almost 60. I can't say that next year. So that'll kind of tell you my age.
Well, as you know, I'm 71 and I just feel like we're just getting started, which is why I came up with magical aging, because I really think in our culture, a lot of the ideas are once you reach, I don't know, even 60, it's all downhill, or you just sit on the couch and watch TV or play golf, but there's no meaning in life. And I really think it's so different. So that's why I love having you on, because you're just such a great example of that. So tell our viewers, what I'd love to hear is, what are some things that you feel are important to keep our health going? So I know you talked about ancient and modern technologies. If you'd like to share a little bit about that, your Pilates is so important. So can you share with our viewers maybe what you think are sort of some of the minimum things that we need to do to stay vibrant and healthy in our older years?
Absolutely. Well, as you know, I always say, transform the life you have into a life you love. And that includes a body you love. It includes all of it. So anything that you're not happy with, we need to find a way to assist you in getting what it is that you want. Excuse me. So I could probably manifest a cough lozenge right now. It's incredible what you can start manifesting when you play with this. So as an age optimization specialist, my focus is really on movement, because you must have balance, flexibility, mobility. All of these things are really important, including strength. So when we want to look our best, it's really important that we're also feeling our best. So I work with people, the movement that is my choice is Pilates. And I've been teaching Pilates most of my life. But it's not just about Pilates. I also belong to a gym and I do other things. So Pilates helps you do life better. That's what I tell my clients. It's not that you need to learn how to do Pilates better. You want to do life better. So if you want to jog, if you want to be able to play with your kids, get on your knees, and you're 60, I've had clients walk in the door and be like, I can't bend down. And now they're tangoing. They're doing tango times a week. So really it's, we sometimes are told what we can't do, and then we start to believe it. But I've had a double spinal fusion, a shattered shoulder, broke my humerus in half, shattered my shoulder in 7 places. I can almost do a back bend. So I don't think that we want to get stuck in what we can't do. We want to figure out what we can do and just maximize on that. So movement is an important piece of the puzzle of being vital and young. And the second piece, which I know, Vanessa, you're a pro at, and I'm constantly learning, is nutrition. Sorry. If you are making nutritious choices, I always look at food as medicine. So you could have food that's poison or food as medicine. And then there's this whole gamut of neutral in between. So eating healthy is one of the key components to staying young and staying vital and making the right choices. So I think food is a very big importance, and also making sure you're properly supplemented, whether you're eating the foods to get the supplementation or if you need to do that in addition. I mentioned frequency, and I want to talk just a moment about that. We might go into it later if we have time. But if you are not in the right energy, in the right frequency, as I call it, and let's face it, everything is energy, everything. I think it was Nikola Tesla that said, if you want to find the secret of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And that is so true because everything we do is energy. Einstein said the future of medicine is frequency. So if you stay in a high vibration, positive thoughts, doing good for others, in a state of gratitude, all of those things raise your vibration. What lowers your vibration is things like guilt, right? Or if you're doing a job that you just don't like, or you've made choices that are not, I'm going to say, in alignment with your highest good. Sometimes we're in a relationship, we can't figure out how to break away, but we're kind of stuck in that relationship. And that's lowering our frequency. So if you can keep a high frequency, well, then you're going to look a lot younger than if you're constantly stressed and constantly, it's almost like your body would be fighting itself. Now, I'll say for a moment, I have a little device called the Heli. I think you have one too, Olivia, right?
I do, yes. Love it.
And this is really interesting. The Heli is a portable medical device, and it uses electromagnetic waves to eliminate pain through microcurrent. It rebalances the body. And it's, okay, this little baby can also read your body and tell you what's out of alignment and what you're resonating with. So if there's something that's missing, it will say, hello. You might not even realize it. So I love this. I connect myself every single day. I look at what's out of alignment. It looks at your chakras, your aura, you name it. But if you have something that's really bothering you, like pain, which happens as sometimes we get older, this is similar to like a TENS. So you're going to be able to connect to this, and through microcurrent, you're going to be able to help correct that problem. So frequency is in this too. It's all frequency. Everything is frequency. And then the last thing I would say to being healthy, and I think it's the most important, is your mindset. So if you can think your way to health and vitality, I asked my dad, who's 97, how on earth can he do what he can do at 97? My mom's 88, 97. I'm like, thank God I've got good genes. My dad said, here's the key, hon. You need to act young. And I'm like, whoa, what does that mean? He's like, if you can think young, you can be young. So if people are complacent, sitting on the couch, eating bad foods, that's certainly not going to help you feel better or look better. But if you get into that state of being vital and alive, it's just like a kid running around, you're going to be much more mobile, agile, etc. So that's, again, how I approach it is movement, nutrition, frequency, and mindset. And if you can handle all of those things, kudos to you, because I think you sometimes have to break it down. Can't do it all at once, but that's why sometimes it's good to get a coach or a friend to assist you along the way.
Oh, that's great. Let me just check. Vanessa, does anyone have questions by any chance?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, it's interesting you talked about, I love everything you said. The mindset piece, as you were saying that, I thought I worked as a data scientist for 30 years and I got in it early and wrote a book and became really well known. And so a lot of companies would hire me, but everybody else on the team was much younger. And the last 14 years before I retired, I contracted with Cisco. We all worked virtually. And what I realized one day was everybody else, except the manager, was probably in his 40s, but everybody else was in their 20s. I was old enough to literally be their grandmother if I had very young. And I thought, that was one of the things that kept me young because they didn't treat me any differently. I don't think any of them knew my age. They knew I was older, silver hair and all that. But I never felt like I was in a different age range. So that was part of, I think, something that kept me youthful because I like that energy. And I also, to your point about your dad and, just mindset, I think it's so important to choose who you spend time with. So it doesn't have to be younger people, but just people who think young. So they can be our age or even older if they're thinking young. Like I bet your dad is just so much fun to hang out with because he's got a youthful spirit and, he's probably like a lot of fun, I would imagine.
He is. He is. I love that you say that because we were at Thanksgiving and he said, all right, we're going to say the blessing. And I was like, oh, okay, here we go. And he said, Lord, bless us and bind us, tie our hands behind us, put us in the bread box so the devil don't find us. And we just laughed hysterically because he is hilarious and he's 97. So yeah, and it's so fun. I agree with you when you can be around people. They also lift your energy. Mm-hmm. So, life attracts light.
That's true. And I find I so enjoy hanging out with my kids. And I've learned, I'm always the mom, but a lot of times I step out of that role because they don't want me being the mom. And it's been a practice to learn how to not parent all the time. But it's really been a pleasure because I can do fun things with them and get to know their friends and still be myself, but not have to feel like I'm drugged down by people who are just really tired of life and want it to be over. So I totally agree. And I'm sure when you're doing work in the film industry, you're probably around younger people as well. That or at least people, even if they're older, they're really living life. Would you agree? Is that kind of true?
Absolutely. And I have to say, this whole idea of age, it is just a number. There's three ways we can look at age. We can look at age, our biological age. That is a number. We were born in a certain year, and that's just a number. But you can also look at your metabolic age, and then you can look at your energetic age. And your metabolic age is really based on how well you're taking care of yourself, your hydration, your bone density, your muscle mass, your weight. So again, if we are taking care of ourselves, we might biologically be 60, but we might metabolically be 35. So that's why I think it's really important. And then you add that energy component. I love going to the gym and I'm in these classes. I'm taking a ballet class and there's all these kids, they're, 18 to 30, and they must wonder what is going on. But often they'll come and they'll compliment me and they're like, oh my gosh, you're such an amazing dancer. And I'm just so grateful. It's not like I'm treated like an old person because I'm not an old person. I might be wiser because I've had many more years than they have, but there was in the past, I think a different mindset. And now I'm so happy because I don't think that exists anymore. I think that it's be around people that raise your vibration and make you happy.
So true. And I really feel like as a human race, we're going through an ascension process, right? This awareness ascending, where the new frequency is really a love frequency. And there's technology coming and things that will, like the Heli and more, that will allow us to live much longer, healthier lives. So I think that's the mindset piece, is if we can believe in that and not get caught up in the day-to-day drama, the fear, the things that are being thrown at us, but just stay in our own space and do our own healing work. Because a lot of times we want to do things, and I dealt with this for years, imposter syndrome and who would want to know what I know and all that stuff that I had to work through. And it really came down to loving myself. And the more I could do that, the more I could be in service to others, which is, I think, what we all love to do. Your whole life is seeing the greatness in others, which I think what you would call that your kind of your goal in life and purpose, or your gift, really, is you can see others' greatness. And that's one of the things I love about everything you offer, because when someone is in your presence, they just feel the best that they can. So I love that part about, yeah.
Well, I think that gift came at a very young age. I think I was 5, and I had like a mini awakening. But what came out of that was resistance, because I pushed it away. And I think that happens to a lot of us as we're being given these gifts. It's a little scary. It's a lot. It's a lot. So we'll tend to be like, we don't, we can't imagine that we're actually able to do some of the things we're being called to do. But years later, I do think it comes back around. I think it comes around more than once. So I consider myself a seer. I'm able to literally see the greatness in others. And I don't mean, oh, you're great. I mean, your purpose, where your purpose and your passion intersect, what the Akashic records have to say for you. Using the sound healings, I've got one particular bowl that connects you right into the ethers and to where the Akasha is. And it's so fulfilling for me to be able to help someone who maybe that's what's standing in their way, is their own belief in themselves. And once they see, oh my gosh, this is possible, and others see this in me, then they're ready to maybe step into it. So that's the seeing part.
That's awesome. Do you want to talk a little bit about the frequency and the bowls? I know you're going to be working with those a lot more. Maybe you can share a little bit about that.
Well, yes. This is kind of a newfound passion. And I think we all have our tool belt. We keep adding to the tool belt. And this is probably one of our more recent and more practical and favorite tools. So sound is energy, just like everything else. And everything, again, it's vibrating at a certain frequency. So something here versus this, right? So that's just to give you kind of a visual. So the bowls, as they call them, they're quartz crystal. And that's actually how we grow, if you want to call it that, what goes inside of our computers to make them run. Believe it or not, that piece that goes in the computer is grown in a quartz crystal bowl. So this is where it's interesting, because science is kind of merging with spirituality. So there is a lot to be said. If everything is energy, and I'm energy and you're energy, and we want to attract greatness into our life, then how does like attract like? Well, this is kind of where these bowls come in, because they can eliminate, so they help my 5-step process. They can eliminate what's not serving you, because you can be thinking in your brain that I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. I don't know if I can do it. Whereas the bowls come in, and the frequency will cut through those disbeliefs. And literally you will receive the healing frequency, the motivating frequency, and it can take you to levels you never knew possible in your own greatness. So that's just the basics behind it. And why I love it so much is, even somebody that's in resistance, it's going to get through. Sound is so powerful. You can feel it in every cell of your body. So, and each bowl connects to a chakra, and it's a little more complicated. I am going to be doing trainings eventually. So I'll be letting you know as part of our retreat side of the business when we're ready to do that. Because I do believe, and I said this about meditation, when Seeking Indigo started offering meditation, people thought it was nuts. remember, this is 15, 20 years ago. Only people who were meditating were people that knew how to meditate. Others were like, what? I don't get it. By the time Seeking Indigo opened its doors and we were into our second year, corporations were coming in. It was amazing. And I said, one day we're going to have meditation studios on every corner. So mark my words, I believe that we will have sound therapy, just like there's yoga studios, just like there's Starbucks. They will be everywhere because people will need that relief. And it's my favorite thing to do. I love yoga. I love all methodologies, but the sound kind of gets through and you don't have to do anything but lay there. So
yeah. I did a gong bath once, or actually I've done it twice, where people have these giant gongs. They're maybe 3 feet in diameter. And I went to one where they had about, I guess, 8 of them. So they created a little square, and there were about 30 people in the room, but 1 by 1 or 2 by 2, we could go up and lay in the middle.
Yeah.
And then they would play them. And it's true. It's like, I have a real tendency to be in my left brain. And when I got there, it's like it just took me completely out of my left brain. It was such a pleasure. So,
well, and the gong is for elimination. So different bowls have different qualities. So I work with the Alchemy bowls. And so each bowl is a different precious crystal or mineral. The gongs, so it's great. You can do all of this manifesting with the bowls. You can realign your chakras, but the gongs are amazing because they go right into the heart of what's standing in your way, and they help with that release and that elimination, which is so important to the process. So when you're in the middle of those 4 gongs, you're literally, some people might have emotional, releases that are happening because literally it's breaking through, and that's the power of sound.
Wow. Yeah, I can imagine even having them in hospitals, right?
Well,
There'll be like a cart. Yeah. It'll go around to every room every day and just set up a healing bath around each patient. And that'd be awesome.
Well, they're actually doing that. These Alchemy crystal bowls. Really? Mm-hmm. So they are being used. They're being used in everything from hospice, hospitals, with animals. Because remember, music's the universal language. So it's really powerful.
Sure, that's great. Vanessa, just checking. And why don't you just interrupt or just speak up if somebody has a question, but I'm assuming not yet.
Not yet.
Okay, thanks. So let me just check my list if there's anything else, because we're getting close to the end. So I know you talked about who you serve. What was the, kind of what is the main obstacle? And I think,
well, I'd love to touch on the who I serve, because I think
okay,
that you did say this earlier, but for me, anyone who's open to possibility and then wants to find positivity, improvement in their life, that is somebody that I can assist with seeing them in their greatness. So it's not an age, it's not a gender, it's just a person who's in the right place. So often I have people that will come to me and say, oh, I really want relief in this area, that area. And I ask them if they're ready, and they're not ready, because we are powerful manifestors. So you said in the very beginning, Vanessa, Olivia, be careful what you want to bring in. Okay. You want to be very specific about it, because once you get this manifestation under your belt, you will start bringing in everything. I used to play with it on the subways in New York, and every seat would open up. I would create a rainbow. I manifested a trampoline on a beach. I manifested somebody playing bagpipes, literally at in Maui. It was just crazy what is possible. So you want to be really clear about what you want to manifest. So I think the person has to be ready to step into their greatness. I think that's really important. And
sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, one of the things that I love to do is Seeking Indigo's Urban Oasis is here in Los Angeles. And it's a private, I would call it a retreat center, although it's a personal bungalow, Pilates center, sound healing. And I only take one person at a time. And I can help that person in 24 hours really get to the bottom of what's standing in their way. Using the 5-step process, they walk out with a nutrition plan, a fitness plan, a manifestation plan, everything that they need to take the life they have and transform it into a life they love. Now, if anybody is interested in that, I want to give you my personal email because I think it's really important. katpeters@me.com. So if you're interested at all in anything that I've had to say tonight, just feel free to tap into katpeters@me.com.
Thanks. And Vanessa's going to share that in the chat. And also, if you want to reach out to me, I'm Olivia at oliviapr.com. I did want to make a point about, or you were saying how you have to be very specific. And there's the idea, a lot of women are maybe trying to attract a man, right? And they say, oh, make a list of all the qualities that you want. So that's one of the techniques for perhaps, concretizing your wishes. So I had a friend who did this, and she wrote this very long, specific list. Well, she met the man of her dreams, but she forgot to put on the list that he was single. So here he was married, his wife was pregnant. And I mean, they did get together for a little bit, and it was heartbreaking because she was so crazy about him, and he was apparently not happy, but the whole thing. So anyway, just to kind of solidify that point is be careful what you're asking for, even in your language, and also to be clear that it's you look at it in the positive, and cover all your bases. Or if somebody shows up and they don't match, see what it is, and add it to your wish list or your manifestation practice. So just wanted to share that.
I love that, Olivia. I'm just going to add to that because I think making your list is important. And that's part of when you're in that evaluation state of what you want and where you are. There's obviously all these things that you want to have in your relationship. Some of them are things you didn't have in your last relationship, or certain things you don't want again because you attracted them. So that is so important. And then I would go into a space of seeing it, feeling it, and being in it, that place of resolve, where you really, you feel yourself in that space with that beloved, with that soulmate, right? That person that you're bringing in. And even though things might be standing in your way, if you get really clear, like you had just suggested, really crystal clear on exactly what it is you want, and then you release it and you let it go and you feel it. And that's when the magic really takes place.
Yeah, I think in the teachings of Abraham, they say, if you spend 17 seconds feeling the emotion of what you want, it's the same power as 5 hours of effort of getting that. So that was a real wake-up call for me. Yeah, I think, and that's the resolve, right? Is that, in fact, there's a thing where whenever I'm resistant to doing something that I know I have to get done, I'll write out a list of all the ways that I'm going to feel as though I finished it. So I've done it, and now I get to do this, or I'm so happy, whatever, just stating all that's true now that it's completed. And then it feels like a vacuum that sort of pulls me into getting it done. It just makes it easier. So anyway, any final thoughts you'd like to share with our viewers before we wrap up here?
No, I mean, there's just so much to share. There's just never quite enough time. But again, we want to look at time as, what we make of it. So I so appreciate you bringing me on today, Olivia. It's been such a joy reconnecting with you. Always fun. And just be in your joy. I mean, I really would say to live an extraordinary life, for me, it's finding my joy and being in that space and giving myself time, because there is enough time. We always get caught up in that idea that there's never enough time and there's, so many things to do. Well, just time segment for yourself so that you can create opportunities, because if you don't put the energy in, you're not going to be able to get that thing that you really want out. And that has to do with losing weight, manifesting a boyfriend. There are tricks and tools that we can use to get ourselves to feel so much younger. We talked about that, but there is also a process to do it. So I just say have fun with it. Make it just every day a joyful day.
Thank you. And be sure and register for Catherine's free gift. It's the action planner for manifestation, the 5-step formula. So you don't want to miss that. It's freefromcat.com. And I just want to thank you and thank everyone for viewing today. This was our first show on the Awareness Ascending Network. So we're really exciting to present Magical Aging every third Wednesday of the month at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And so I think we'll wrap up with that. Thank you again, Catherine.
Thank you. And it's Cat with a K, catpeters@me.com if you want to email me about anything, and Free From Cat with a K. Thank you again, Olivia. Such a pleasure to be with all of you. And I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Bye, everybody. Go out and age magically.